another Lumio Live. It might be Tuesday, but it feels like Monday today. Alex, how is your day going today?
Going well. Excited to share some science with everybody and how Lumio can support some good old NGSS learning.
All right. So for those of you who don't know Alex, he is one of our new education solutions consultants here at Smart and Lumio. And I specifically have been saving in my back pocket to have Alex join me for this Lumio Live, because if you don't know yet, you're about to know that I call him Dr. Science. Alex, introduce yourself.
My name is Dr. Hofeldt, not Dr. Science, sadly. That would be a cool name, though. I was in education for 16 years. 6 of those I was spent as a science director in Illinois. Towards the end of it, just worked really hard, kind of revamped the entire district from a K-12 and next generation science, three-dimensional learning standpoint. So I've really dove deep and shared a lot and met a lot of science educators out there trying to, hit these crazy three-dimensional targets that is NGSS. So here we are today.
And here we are, because if you know me, you know that I always make fun of myself for being a kindergarten teacher. And like my whole thing is literacy. So I always tap into my friends for math, for science. So we're really leaning on Alex today because we're going to talk about PHeT simulations. If you don't know what PHeT is, we're about to show you something so cool that's embedded right into Lumio. Remember that the goal of Lumio is we're really staying in one tab, which makes it so much easier for you as the teacher and also for your students to just navigate just one tab. So let's show you exactly what Lumio has in regards to PHeT. We're going to show you an example simulation, and then we're going to show you where you can find even more of those. All right. Alex is going to guide me through what we're doing here. Remember, kindergarten teacher.
Well, so the cool thing about PHeT and the cool thing about kind of the next generation learning is when you're leading with inquiry, it can really work from a kindergartner all the way up to a college student, because every one of these, especially with the PHeT simulations, this one's one of my favorite. It's great for chemistry and physics. I actually use it to teach seniors about the stellar evolution cycles of stars, but that's a different story. So if you just go ahead and click on the Explore one, that's always a good one to start with. So the way this thing kind of works is, there you said this great little animation, you said pump the handle. So usually you can get the kids started by, go ahead and you pump the handle a couple times. And our goal with NGSS learning, right, is to have that inquiry-driven example. So at this point in the game, a cool thing that Lumio can allow is that your students, like Meesh is doing right now, see it's kind of intuitive. They'll do this, they know screens. They can just start playing with it. You might want to guide them in a little bit. They'll probably at this point in your lesson have an understanding of, the SEPs, the science engineering practices, the cross-cutting concepts, the CCs, and they probably would know that you're in the DCIs, which would be within the physics and chemistry units. So as you can see here, there's a lot of variables that she can just start to manipulate. I used to do this, even with the seniors, just let them start playing for a while. Start having them go through, if you want to look at it from like a KWL standpoint or something like that, have her start playing, have your students start engaging, and they'll start showing each other. And you can start seeing the different variables that emerge. So Meesh, what do you notice? And what do you, I can see you clicking around here.
Well, earlier when I was clicking on it, and it's not working right now for me, but I might have done something different. But I noticed earlier when I went to cool, they started to move around a lot faster.
Yeah. So you can check that out. You might want to close the lid here. And anytime too with the PHeT, you can always reset it. That's always something you can do after you play with it a little bit. Yep. And you just kind of start over. So you notice you change the little particles here. So at this point, you're just allowing her to kind of see what's going on. So she noticed that she was looking at speed. So maybe if one of your students shows something about speed, or you hear the concepts of speed start going, you can start looking at it. So why don't we focus on that? So instead of getting too deep into it, her next slide she's going to show you is a cause and effect mechanism. So where we can start looking at the modeling of cause and effect. So Lumio can allow us to put this up on the board, put this in whatever you're using, but can also then port it out to the different students so they can start to interact with this, whether or not you want to do it in a group or one-on-one. But usually the way this thing notice, even though it goes left or right, you'll notice it's 1, 2, 3 to the middle. So a lot of times when you start messing with this, you really want to kind of guide them through. But at this point, in many of my lessons, my students saw these. So this cause and effect is one of the CCs. So this is one of the kind of stabilizing processes that goes through kind of how we go from the engineering to this. So she just looked at effects. So the effect for this example would be, whatever you want to call it. We'll say particle speed for easiness, or blue ball, red ball speed and stuff. So she can just start looking in at whatever effect she wants. There's lots of them, She also noticed, maybe she writes in, she noticed that when she made the temperature go down, the particle speed went up, which shouldn't be right. It should be flipped. As the temperature goes down, the particle speed should slow down. That's okay. That's
Well, so what's really fun in what Alex is saying is you guys were able to observe me kind of playing with it, seeing what was going on, and you'll notice that I was logged in. So if I had my students connected to my Lumio lesson, each of them would have the ability to really explore on their own. With Lumio, you can kind of dictate how each page goes. With like a PDF that we just showed you, I can tell you if that's going to be a whole class whiteboard, an individual handout. I can decide that. With the PHeT simulations, every student gets their own version to really be able to do that exploration on their own. And then what's really nice as teachers is after our students have that time to explore, we want to really be able to kind of get inside their brain and kind of give them that moment to capture their thoughts. And in Lumio, there's so many different ways for them to do that. No matter what kind of a student they are, they can come in here and they can write. They can use the gallery. There's an option for them to record themselves. Maybe especially with science, it's easier for themselves to kind of speak through what their observations were. They can bring in some images. You saw me typing over here earlier. And like I mentioned, I have the ability to turn this page into any kind of a workspace. So individual handout, group workspace, whole class whiteboard. Alex and I were talking last week of like with science, it's so fun to do these things in a group workspace because after you have that moment of self-reflection and kind of observing, experimenting on your own, to then get into that smaller group, which makes it a little bit lower stakes for your students to really hear what other folks notice and kind of compare your notes. So we have so many different PHeT simulations in Lumio. So really quick, I'm going to go to end my session. And what I'm going to do is show you where you can find all those. So I'm going to pop over to my library. I'm going to go to that new button. And when I have that menu of all the different things that I can bring in, there is an entire button for PHeT. And right now we have 119 different simulations that you can do, varying from math, chemistry, different kinds of science on here. Lots of folks love the John Travoltage one. When you do click on one, you're able to really quickly experiment with it before you take the time to add it to your lesson. But here you can see what happens.
Classic. Everyone knows that one.
Classic. It's so fun. So there's just so many ways to do that. And that's exactly how you bring them in. And then they're in your lesson. And like Alex said, it's really easy to just go in once you've picked your simulation. And if you wanted to upload a PDF, you can bring that in, change it into a workspace for your students. So they've done their exploring, then they can do their documenting and then come together as a whole group. What do you think, Alex?
I think it's great. Yeah, the ability for that to just flow from one end to the other without ever breaking out or breaking into any other tech is just such a wonderful thing that Lumio allows you and you to do for your students, which is wonderful.
There's so many great things that we can do. I love that we can just stay within that tab, learn the science, take our notes, think through all of our thoughts and our observations. It's all so fun. Well, thank you everyone for hanging out with us today as we think about how we can use PHeT and Lumio to teach our science lessons. And thank you, Alex, for hanging out. This was your first Lumio Live.
Hey.
Welcome. We loved having you.
Always talk science. You know me.
Let's give Mr. Science a round of applause. He killed it today. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.